With the conclusion of episode 18 of Shangri-La Frontier, we conclude the Whethermon fight, which to me is probably the best fight I've not only seen in this anime, which it's guaranteed the best fight we've seen in this anime. It's also my personal favorite fight I've watched this anime season. And I think the big competition for anyone doing action is Frieren. Frieren does it differently. It's not about really long fights, but everything they do with action with their magic is incredible. You of course have solo leveling, which is self-explanatory, but I also think the run is with Shangri-La Frontier. The Friday to Sunday stretch for great action scenes is really incredible. And the best part is all three of those shows aren't just action. They have elements of it, but they're surrounded by really great writing and situations and even slice of life stuff. The conclusion of this fight though, man, like, there's some people who apparently are complaining that the fight's too long, which makes no sense because anyone who's played a video game knows that there are boss fights that can last you 20, even 40 minutes. Anyone who's played an MMO knows that raids, you're strapped in for an hour minimum. Like, that's not just something you go in and you're done in 2 minutes. Yes, a lot of single-player boss fights can be done in less than 10 minutes if you know what you're doing. But man, basically consider the fact that you have to look at it from two different points of view. An MMO point of view and a Soulsborne point of view. Elden Ring, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Sekiro, any of those. If we had the ability to self-revive in those moments, like continue the boss fight onwards, that's how goddamn long these boss fights would still take us if we were able to continue. It's just usually what happens is we get our ass killed 100 times and then we figure out the actual attack pattern and it takes under 10 minutes. Or you look at it as an MMO and you're strapping in with your team of however many it is, and you're going in for an hour minimum to deal with the bullshit that you are, man. And I love the fact that Shangri-La Frontier not only perfectly captured the video game design section of this, where the end result when we got into the final phase was that we had to not only parry with this impossible, if you get hit by this, you're gonna die attack, but most importantly, if we could land a hit during that and survive it, we would end up defeating, shattering his armor, and we would win with that. In terms of the mech, we basically had to expose the crotch cannon, which, you heard me right, we had to expose the crotch cannon and pierce that bad boy, and yes, you heard me right there as well, and that's how we dealt with that. The reward, we have no idea. We know why we were doing this for a personal reason and for a challenge reason, but the millions of dollars worth of equipment in-game that they spent and used, you have to wonder if the actual in-game reward would be worth it for most players, but then again, most players aren't going to want to deal with what they just went through. They're going to move on to something that's a little more accessible, but, you know, I guess we'll see. I hope they get a permanent stat boost, some nice leveling up. I mean, our one character literally has a permanent, I forget how many levels he's going to lose. I think like 10 or 15, something like that. I don't know, but everything about this fight was so good. It felt like watching a professional sporting match, and in this case it was a professional esports match, where the game design for this made complete sense. The self-revives, the parrying, the conditions, everything about this was 10 out of 10. And even if it wasn't your personal favorite fight that you've watched this anime season, I think you have to be a damn dirty liar to say the duration of the fight felt stretched out, because it didn't. This only way I can see people honestly think that is if they don't play video games, or if the video games they play are like just side scrollers, because there's no way you look at a well-designed video game boss fight like this and say this doesn't feel like a real MMO boss fight, because it does. The only difference is if you go play WoW right now, it's not going to look this realistic because you're not a part of it. But if WoW was as realistic, I mean, shit man, you probably are going to be doing some crazy shit like this. It's fantastic. I have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode of Shangri-La Frontier over on my Patreon. If you want to see my full link of thoughts as we watch today's hype episode, it's over there if you're interested. I doubt any fight in this anime, you know, for the rest of this anime season is gonna compare. If somehow they could, that's amazing, but I feel like this was the passion. The animation got better with each episode. The final few moments of Sunraku versus Whethermon, man, like, oh, it just got better and better. It really did. This is so freaking good. Everything about it. The idea of the spamming of self-revives. Who the hell wouldn't do that if you had a pocket full of them and you're fighting something like this? The idea that rather than it was a time limit like they initially thought was more of, no, here's a 6 to 7 attack pattern. On the last piece, he does this impossible strike that is designed to insta-kill you. we have to figure out a way to parry it, which, you know, basically the developers made it impossible to. But because video games have more than one system at play, it's not just what the boss is programmed as, we have this very cool blade that when different conditions are met, it takes a bit to get there, he has the basically opportunity to have a higher chance at criticals, which he needs a critical in order to parry, and everything's going well, except the condition is he needs, I think, like 1/3 of his health or less, and he has like 14-ish. So what do? Immediately I'm like, stab yourself, fool. But then again, you have to realize that he has some pretty powerful gear equipped. A simple poke is probably gonna kill him. They actually recently added a thing in the game that if your luck stat, I think it was higher than 50, if you do any sort of self-imposed wounds and you have endure, you come back with at least 1 health point, which is what he needs for the conditions to be met. All's well that ends well. That was just so good though. Like, I've seen some really, really good game design in this show since pretty much the beginning of it, of how it works, but the longer we watch, the more you have to say, not only does the author of this source material understand game design in terms of, he doesn't just simply casually play, like, no, like, this is how a good game would be designed, but most importantly, the studio, C2C, who is adapting this, the way they do the effects, everything about it feels like, yeah, I would want to play a game that looked like this. I would want to be experiencing everything like this. Everything about it is so good. The thing about this, and I think the way some people criticize the fight for this being 4 episodes, I think it's really 3.5 episodes when you consider it, but either way, 4 episodes, right? Oh, it's just getting dragged out. It's like, take a step back. Even if you're not a gamer, why would you want to fight something that is being presented as the end boss, or one of the ultimate bosses that you shouldn't be able to defeat, and it takes you 10 minutes? Just really answer that question. That'd be fucking dumb, wouldn't it? There's a reason why MMOs go so hard with raids. There's a reason why Soulsborne design games are designed that they can one-shot you with most of their attacks. It's all about learning attack patterns. It's about learning situations and using your team. Without the team doing what they did, all 3 were equally important. Had those 2 creatures not been separated, the mech and the armor, they would have been shit out of luck. It was a team effort. And the design of this, the length of it, they constantly did something. It wasn't like he was just spamming some generic swing this whole time and he stood there talking about his emotions. This wasn't a battle shonen fight in the way that, like, Goku's gonna stand there for 20 minutes and talk. When Sanraku's talking, he's making game plans. He's strategizing with the audience, and in doing so, feeling like a real professional esports player in a lot of ways. This was fantastic. Pencil and everyone doing their thing. The idea of exposing the crotch laser, which, yes, you still heard me right. Honestly, I liked it because we start the episode off with her, you know, unaliving herself in order to get a new arm, and then ends with her with like a single hand throwing that spear into the crotch laser, and then our boy punching the thing into the crotch. They knew what they were doing with that imagery, but the overall design of it did make sense, but you know, it is what it is. I really don't know what they're going to get from this because the amount of financial loss they did to fight this thing is insane. I hope we get some good gear. I hope we get a permanent boost of some sort. I don't know. But the one thing that is definitely priceless was the experience that no one's ever going to be able to fight that thing and beat it the way they did. Like, it's gone now, right? Like, rest in peace. It'll be interesting to see because now I hope we get to see a developer be like, what the f? All right, bet. It's going to be like the game devs in Bofuri trying to outclass Maple. They're going to just keep making the bosses harder and harder or something. I don't know. But they still have like another 6 left already in the game. So I guess we'll see where it goes. But, great episode. Let me know what you thought of the conclusion of the Whethermon fight down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around, of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more. And like I mentioned, we have that full live reaction over on my Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So today we have Searcher 7, Rafa Banana, Some Guy Dude VG, Rocket No 9, Nine-Tailed Brush, and Nanospace. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.